Welcome to the Professor English podcast, where we don't just talk about English, we practice English. My name is Ryan, and I am your host. Today, we are going to practice using the phrase, take something out on someone. This is what happens when you feel a negative emotion, but it is not safe to express it at the moment, so you wait for a different time and release your feelings at a safer place. If the meaning isn't clear now, don't worry. We are going to practice using the expression together, and you'll be more comfortable with this phrase after we practice. If you want to improve your listening, if you want to improve your speaking, if you want to improve your fluency, then you have found the right video. Practice with me and improve the whole enchilada while learning new and interesting words and phrases. Before we begin, I just want to remind you that if you prefer some visual help with this exercise, you can always see the video version on my YouTube channel, Professor English ESL Class. Now, let's dive in and start practicing English. Here is a sentence. John was impolite to Mary. John was impolite to Mary. John was impolite to Mary. He was impolite to her. He was impolite to her. Let's make a when question. When was he? When was he impolite? When was he impolite to her? When was he? When was he? When was he impolite to her? Let's say after work. He was impolite to her after work. He was impolite to her after work. Let's make a why question. Why? Why was he? Why was he? Why was he impolite? Why was he impolite to her after work? Now, here's the reason. He had a bad day and he was very angry at his boss. So he was feeling a lot of anger towards his boss, but it wasn't safe to express his anger with his boss. So he kept his anger inside. And later, when he was talking to Mary, he acted very angry. He took his anger out. He took his anger out on Mary. Mary received the anger, not the boss. The boss should receive the anger, but he directed it to someone else. He took his anger out on her. He took his anger out. He took his anger out on her, out on her, out on her. He took his anger out on her. He took his anger out on her. He took his anger out on her because he had a bad day. He took his anger out on her. He took his anger out on her because he had a bad day, because he had a bad day. He took his anger out on her because he had a bad day. All right, super duper job. Let's try another example. Mark was rude to the customers. He was rude to the customers. Let's make a when question. When? When was he? When was he? When was he rude? When was he rude to the customers? The answer is when the company didn't give him the tools to fix the problems. So the customers complained. So Mark didn't have the ability to fix the problems of the customers because of the company. It's not his fault. It's the company's fault. And so the customers are angry with Mark, and he's getting angry at the customers. He should be angry with the company. He should be frustrated with the company, not with the customer. It's the company's fault. He took his frustration out on the customers. He should be frustrated with the company, but that's not safe. He could get fired. A lot of things could happen if he expresses his frustration with the company. But it was easy to express his frustration with the customers. That was an easy target. He took his frustration out on the customers. He redirected his frustration from the company to the customers. He took his frustration out on the customers. Took his frustration out on. He took his frustration out on. He took his frustration out on the customers. He took his frustration out on the companies. He took his frustration out on the customers because the company didn't give him the right tools to help them. He was angry with the company, really, not with the customers. All right, you're doing a super duper job. Let's try another example. But before we do, I just want to remind you, if you find these exercises helpful, please take a moment to subscribe to my channel, Professor English ESL Class, so that you won't miss the next lesson. And if you are watching this video on YouTube, please take a moment to press the like button. It helps my channel so much and lets me know that you want to see more fluency and listening exercises just like this one. Now, let's keep practicing English. Here's another situation. Mary was unhappy with her teacher. Mary was unhappy with her teacher. Let's make a when question. When was she? When was she unhappy? When was she unhappy with her teacher? With her teacher. With her teacher. With her teacher. When was she unhappy with her teacher? Here is the answer. When she failed her test. When she failed her test. She was unhappy with her teacher when she failed her test. With her teacher, with her teacher. Failed her test, failed her test, failed her test. She was unhappy with her teacher when she failed her test. Okay, let's make a why question. Why was she? Why was she unhappy? Why was she unhappy with her teacher? Why was she unhappy with her teacher when she failed? Why was she unhappy with her teacher when she failed her test? When she failed her test? When she failed her test? Why was she unhappy with her teacher when she failed her test? Here is the reason. The reason that she failed the test was because she didn't study hard enough. But instead of working harder, or instead of fixing her problem, she took her unhappiness, she took her failure, and she directed it towards the teacher. So instead of saying, oh, I did a bad job, I should study harder, she became angry with the teacher. Why did you fail me? She took her failure out on her teacher. She took her failure out on her teacher. It was safer for her to be angry with her teacher than to admit that she did a bad job. She took her failure out. She took her failure out. She took her failure out on her teacher. On her teacher. She took her failure out on her teacher. She took her failure out on her teacher. She took her failure out on her teacher. All right, fantastic job. Let's try another example. Mark's friends don't like him anymore. Mark's friends don't like him anymore. Let's make a why not like him anymore question. Why not? Why don't his friends? Why don't his friends like him anymore? Why don't his friends, why don't his friends, why don't his friends, why don't his friends like him? Why don't his friends like him? Why don't his friends like him anymore? Here is the reason. Because he mistrusts them. Let's make a when start mistrusting his friends question. When start mistrusting his friends. When did he start? When did he start mistrusting his friends? When did he start mistrusting his friends? Okay, let's say after he was robbed. He started mistrusting his friends after he was robbed. He started mistrusting his friends after he was robbed. He started mistrusting his friends after he was robbed. Okay. Well, who should he mistrust? His friends or the robber? The robber. He should mistrust the robber. But he's taking that mistrust because maybe he doesn't know the robber. And now he mistrusts everyone, including his friends, and they don't like that. So he's taking his mistrust, the mistrust that he experienced from the robbery, out on his friends. It's like he's redirecting the mistrust to something safer or something he can touch, something he can see, because he doesn't know who the robber is, maybe. But he suspects everybody around him now because he doesn't trust anyone. He's taking his mistrust out on his friends. He takes his mistrust. He takes his mistrust out on his friends. He takes his mistrust out on his friends. They don't like him anymore because he takes his mistrust out on them. They don't like him anymore because he takes his mistrust out on them. All right, you did an amazing job today, and you practiced some fantastic English. Congratulations, I knew you could do it. Remember, practice makes perfect, so you should repeat this exercise several times, not just to remember how to use the expression take something out on, but to improve your listening skills and your speaking skills. It's been really fun practicing English with you today, and I hope to see you again soon. So don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to press the like button. See you in the next video with more interesting words and phrases.